Ladies and gentlemen, success in any area of life doesn't come from luck. It comes from a quiet, powerful force within you. Self-discipline. It's the ability to do what you should do when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. Self-discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. It's the hidden ingredient behind financial independence, physical fitness, strong relationships, and a meaningful life. Without it, even the most brilliant ideas remain just that, ideas. Today, I want to share with you 7 powerful techniques to help you master self-discipline. These are the same strategies used by high achievers in every industry. The beauty is, they're not complicated, but they do require one thing: your commitment to act. Self-discipline is the foundational quality that underpins every form of lasting success. No matter how intelligent, talented, or lucky a person may be, without self-discipline, those advantages remain untapped or inconsistently applied. It is the ability to control your impulses, stay focused on your goals, and take the right action regardless of external circumstances or internal resistance. At its core, self-discipline is what turns vision into results and ambition into achievement. In life, you are constantly faced with choices between doing what is easy and what is right, between what is comfortable and what is necessary. Discipline is the force that empowers you to consistently choose what is necessary. It's the inner strength that says, "I will do what needs to be done, even when it's inconvenient, boring, or difficult." It's not flashy, and it often goes unnoticed. But behind every successful person is a long track record of disciplined decisions. The most successful individuals don't always feel like working, training, saving money, or waking up early. But they do it anyway. That's discipline. They've trained themselves to act based on values and priorities, not on moods or emotions. While the average person waits for motivation, the disciplined person builds habits that work even on the toughest days. Discipline is not about being in the mood, it's about making progress regardless of the mood. In fact, discipline often starts where motivation ends. Motivation is what gets you going, but it rarely lasts. One setback, one distraction, and motivation fades. That's where discipline takes over. It is the consistent engine that keeps you moving forward when excitement wears off. It allows you to persevere through boredom, adversity, fatigue, and fear. And because discipline is a decision rather than a feeling, it gives you control when everything else feels out of control. Discipline also develops self-respect. When you do the things you promised yourself you would do, your confidence grows. You begin to trust yourself. That internal trust is powerful. It strengthens your identity and reaffirms your ability to reach your goal. On the other hand, breaking promises to yourself, skipping workouts, overspending, procrastinating, slowly erodes your self-esteem. Every disciplined action is a deposit in your personal bank of confidence. Moreover, self-discipline compounds over time. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Like a muscle, it grows through regular use. Each time you resist a temptation, complete a difficult task, or follow through on a goal, you reinforce your discipline. These small acts accumulate, and over weeks, months, and years, they build extraordinary results. The person who is willing to be disciplined consistently outpaces the one who relies on occasional bursts of effort. Self-discipline also brings a sense of freedom that most people never experience. While it may seem restrictive at first, the truth is that discipline creates options. When you're in control of your habits, your time, and your choices, you're no longer a slave to impulses or distractions. You gain the freedom to direct your life rather than react to it. People who lack discipline often feel stuck, overwhelmed, or frustrated, not because they don't have potential, but because they've surrendered control. It is also the key to long-term thinking. Most of life's biggest rewards are delayed. They come after years of investment and effort. Discipline is what allows you to delay gratification, stay focused on the bigger picture, and resist the temptation of shortcuts. Whether it's building wealth, getting in shape, growing a business, or raising a family. These things require patience and consistency. Without discipline, long-term goals are abandoned for short-term pleasures. One of the most powerful principles for developing self-discipline is the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. It states that 80% of your results come from just 20. In other words, a small number of actions are responsible for the majority of your success. When you understand this principle deeply and apply it consistently, you can dramatically increase your productivity, your income, and your peace of mind, simply by focusing on the few things that truly matter. Most people stay busy rather than effective. They fill their days with tasks that feel urgent but are ultimately low value. They check emails, attend unnecessary meetings, run errands, and multitask, believing that being busy is the same as being productive. Discipline means resisting the temptation to stay busy for the sake of activity. It means identifying and committing to the few things that create real leverage in your life. That is the essence of 80-20 thinking. To apply the 80-20 rule, you first need clarity on your key outcome. What are the top results you're responsible for? In your work, it might be closing sales, delivering high-impact projects, or solving problems that save time and money. In your personal life, it might be improving your health, nurturing relationships, or managing your finances. Once you identify those core outcomes, you then ask, what 20% of activities are producing 80% of these results? That question alone can shift your focus and sharpen your discipline. Here's where self-discipline becomes essential. The highest value tasks are often the most difficult, complex, or mentally demanding. They're not always fun, they require deep thinking, preparation, or emotional energy. But they also move the needle. Discipline is what allows you to say, this task matters most, and I will start here. It's what keeps you from procrastinating on the very thing that could change your life. The more often you act on the top 20%, the more your results multiply. Eliminating or delegating the low-value 80% is just as important. These are the tasks that drain time and energy without meaningful payoff. Discipline is also about saying no. No to distractions. No to tasks that don't align with your goals. No to people or commitments that pull you off course. The 80-20 rule gives you permission to ignore the trivial and focus on the vital. It creates a filter that keeps your schedule lean and your attention sharp. When you discipline yourself to live by the 80-20 rule, your time management improves dramatically. You stop overcommitting. You build your day around your highest priorities, often completing more in a few focused hours than others do in an entire day. Your calendar becomes a tool for achievement, not a source of stress. The clarity of knowing what matters most eliminates the decision fatigue that destroys willpower. Over time, applying the 80-20 rule builds momentum. As you become more effective, you begin to experience bigger wins in shorter periods of time. You work smarter, not just harder. This fuels your confidence and reinforces the habit of discipline. You start asking better questions, setting sharper goals, and taking more intentional action. The upward spiral begins, and it's all driven by the decision to focus on what actually produces results. There is power in simplicity. The 80-20 rule brings that simplicity to the forefront. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things. Self-discipline isn't about grinding through endless to-do lists. It's about focusing your limited time and energy on the few actions that deliver the greatest return. Once you internalize this, every day becomes a strategic opportunity to move closer to your goals with clarity and control. Clarity is the starting point of all personal mastery. You cannot discipline yourself effectively if you don't know exactly what you're aiming for. Think of self-discipline as a guided missile. It needs a clear target to lock onto. Without defined goals, you wander. With them, you direct your energy. Clear, written goals give your discipline a purpose. They eliminate confusion and replace it with focus. Vague intentions create vague outcomes. But when your goals are specific and visible, your behavior starts to align with your desired results. A written goal has power. Something happens the moment you put your goal on paper. It moves from a vague wish in your mind to a concrete target in the real world. It becomes something you can see, measure, and aim at every single day. This act alone separates the wishful thinker from the achiever. People who write down their goals are far more likely to reach them than those who keep their dreams locked in their head. Why? Because writing is an act of commitment. It makes the goal real and your discipline real with it. When your goals are clear, decision-making becomes faster and easier. You instantly know what to say yes to and what to decline. Discipline thrives in clarity. You're no longer swayed by distractions or shiny objects that pull others off course. You have a roadmap. Every task, opportunity, or challenge is filtered through one question. Does this move me closer to my goal? If the answer is yes, you act. If the answer is no, you let it go. That kind of focus is only possible with specific goals in front of you. There is a big difference between wanting success and planning for it. A person without goals is like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the winds of life, reacting instead of direct. But the disciplined individual sits down and defines their destination. They don't just hope for success, they schedule it. They know where they're going, when they want to get there, and how they'll measure progress along the way. That level of clarity forces you to take yourself seriously, and that alone sharpens your discipline. Effective goals are not just written once and forgotten, they are reviewed daily. This is a key technique of high performers. Constant visual reinforcement. Reviewing your goals each morning primes your mind. It activates your focus and sets the tone for your day. It reminds you why you need discipline and what it's helping you create. Every morning becomes a recalibration. In that quiet time of goal review, you reconnect with your mission, and it becomes harder to be lazy or distracted. Another reason goals increase discipline is that they break big dreams into manageable actions. A large goal without structure can feel overwhelming. But when you take the time to break it down into milestones, deadlines, and daily tasks, you reduce resistance. You make it easier to begin. Clear goals make your path visible, and visible paths reduce hesitation. You no longer wonder, what should I do, because your goals already tell you, and that sense of direction fuels your discipline. Goals also reveal gaps in your behavior. When you compare your current habits with your desired outcomes, the truth becomes clear. If your goal is to be fit but you're skipping workouts, you see the conflict. If your goal is to double your income, but your calendar is filled with low-value activities, the contradiction becomes obvious. This feedback creates pressure, the right kind of pressure. It forces you to close the gap between who you are and who you want to become. That pressure is a motivator, and it strengthens discipline. Finally, written goals provide momentum. Every time you hit a milestone or check off a step, you feel a surge of progress. That sense of movement builds confidence. It reinforces the idea that your efforts matter, that you're capable of achieving more. Discipline becomes easier when you see it working. Clear goals give you that evidence. They turn effort into visible results. And over time, those small wins add up to something massive. Something that all began with the decision to write it down. One of the fastest ways to build discipline and accelerate your results is to train yourself to do the hardest task first. This principle is simple, but it's powerful. Every day you're faced with a list of things you could do. Some are easy, some are urgent, but usually there's one task, the one that requires the most effort, courage, or focus, that stands above the rest. That's the task you must attack first. When you discipline yourself to start with it, everything else becomes easier, and your productivity goes through the roof. Most people naturally avoid difficult tasks. They put them off, hoping they'll feel more motivated later. But here's the truth. You rarely feel motivated to do hard things. You must act first, and the motivation comes after. Starting with the most challenging task is a way of practicing mental toughness. It's a deliberate choice to face resistance head-on, instead of dancing around. Every time you do this, you strengthen the habit of follow-through, and weaken the grip of procrastination. This approach works because of something called activation energy. Hard tasks take more mental and emotional energy to begin. They trigger fear, uncertainty, or discomfort. But once you start, momentum kicks in. Action creates energy. As you get going, the task becomes less intimidating. It's the starting that's hard, not the doing. When you tackle the hardest thing first, you use your highest energy and willpower at the beginning of the day, when you're strongest mentally. By contrast, when you delay difficult tasks, they don't go away, they grow. They hang over your head and drain your mental energy all day long. Even if you're doing other work, a part of your mind stays preoccupied with what you're avoiding. That mental burden slows you down and increases your stress. Discipline means flipping the script. Instead of letting fear of the hard task control your day, you take control by getting it done first. It's not about comfort, it's about progress. Starting with the hardest task builds momentum. Once you've handled the most challenging thing, the rest of your day feels lighter. You move through smaller tasks with confidence and you feel accomplished early, and that creates positive inertia. You've already won the day by 10 a.m. Everything else is a bonus. That kind of momentum leads to consistent days of high performance, which compound into weeks, months, and years of meaningful achievement. This technique also improves your ability to focus. When you commit to doing the hard task first, you're forced to cut distractions. You sit down, eliminate noise, and give your best attention to what matters. This kind of deep work is rare today, but it's the key to real progress. Shallow work keeps you busy. Deep work moves you forward. Discipline is the decision to choose depth over distraction, even when it's uncomfortable. Doing the hardest task first also boosts your self-image. Every time you face something difficult and conquer it, you prove to yourself that you're capable, reliable, and in control. That builds internal strength. You start to trust yourself at a deeper level, and when you trust yourself, discipline becomes easier. You no longer negotiate with your excuses. You override them. You become the kind of person who acts, not the kind who delays. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habit. And one of the most powerful habits you can build is the discipline to do the tough thing first. It sets the tone for your day, raises your standards, and sharpens your, whether it's making a difficult call, starting that workout, writing that report, or addressing an uncomfortable issue. Start with the hard thing. Your future self will thank you. In a world full of noise, the ability to concentrate is a superpower. Distractions are the enemies of self-discipline. They break your momentum, scatter your focus, and steal your time. You can have clear goals, a solid plan, and good intentions, but if your attention is constantly being hijacked by interruptions, you won't execute. That's why one of the most important things you can do to strengthen discipline is to remove distractions ruthlessly, without apology, without delay. Discipline isn't just about willpower, it's about environment design. Your environment either supports your focus or sabotages it. If you constantly leave your phone next to you while working or keep email and messaging apps open, you're setting yourself up to fail. You cannot fight distraction with raw effort alone. You must make it harder to be distracted and easier to focus. That's what disciplined people do. They create an environment that aligns with their goals, not with their impulse. The first step is to identify the common distractions that rob your attention. For most people, it's digital. Phones, notifications, social media, unnecessary browsing. These tools are addictive by design. Every ping, buzz, and flash is engineered to interrupt you. You have to take control. Turn off notifications, put your phone in another room. Use website blockers during work hours. Discipline means taking proactive steps to protect your mental bandwidth, not waiting until your day is already derailed. It's not just digital distractions. People can be distractions too. You must be willing to guard your time from interruptions disguised as conversations, meetings, or casual requests. Discipline often requires saying no, not rudely, but firmly. You cannot let someone else's urgency become your emergency. If you're constantly accessible, you're rarely effective. Set boundaries. Communicate your focus time. Create space for deep work and protect it like your future depends on it. Because it does. Every distraction carries a hidden cost. Context switching. Research shows that once you're interrupted, it can take 15 to 30 minutes to fully regain focus. Multiply that by 5 or 10 interruptions a day, and you're losing hours of productivity, not to mention mental clarity. Discipline means recognizing these invisible drains on your performance and eliminating them before they steal another day. It's not about being rigid, it's about being effective. Removing distractions also allows you to experience flow, a state of deep, energized focus where time disappears and performance peaks. You can't enter flow when you're half engaged, multitasking, or waiting for the next alert to pop up. Discipline is what creates the space for flow to happen. It's the decision to be fully present in one task, one thought, one moment. When you operate this way, your work becomes more efficient, more enjoyable, and far more rewarding. Protecting your focus also protects your energy. Mental fatigue doesn't just come from hard thinking, it comes from fragmented attention. When your mind is constantly switching gears, scanning, reacting, and recovering, it burns out. But when you eliminate distractions and focus on one thing at a time, you conserve energy. You work longer without exhaustion. You finish the day feeling accomplished instead of drained. That's the power of disciplined focus. It sustains your energy, not just your output. When you remove distractions, you send a message to yourself, what I'm working on matter. That message builds confidence. It reinforces your identity as someone who takes their time seriously, who protects their potential, who doesn't give in to every urge or ping or click. That internal shift is where real discipline grows. You begin to respect your own attention, and that's when others start respecting it too. Discipline doesn't always have to feel like a struggle. In fact, the most disciplined people don't rely on motivation or willpower every day. They rely on routines and rituals. A routine is a set of actions you repeat consistently. A ritual is a routine with purpose behind it. When you build strong routines into your day, you take the thinking out of discipline. You don't have to decide whether or not to act. You just follow the pattern. That's the beauty of structure. It frees your mind and anchors your behavior. Every decision you make consumes mental energy. This is known as decision fatigue, the gradual breakdown in willpower that happens when you face too many choices. Over time, even small decisions can exhaust you. What should I wear? What should I work on first? When should I work out? The more you have to think, the more likely you are to default to what's easy instead of what's right. That's why routines are so powerful. They eliminate unnecessary decisions and preserve energy for what truly matters. When you create a structured morning routine, for example, you begin the day on your terms. You move into action before the world starts pulling at your attention. A productive morning ritual might include waking up at the same time, exercising, reviewing your goals, reading something positive, or getting to your most important work before distractions begin. This kind of consistency gives you momentum, and momentum, once created, generates discipline naturally. Evening routines are equally valuable. They help you close the day with intention. A strong evening ritual might include journaling your wins, planning your next day, turning off devices at a set time, or winding down with reflection or quiet. The purpose is to calm the mind, review your progress, and reset your focus. This practice not only improves your sleep but sets the tone for the next day. Discipline is often won or lost the night before. Routines also anchor you during stressful or chaotic times. Life can be unpredictable, but when you have rituals built into your day, non-negotiables, you stay grounded. Whether you're traveling, facing challenges, or feeling off, your routines keep you centered. They provide stability in a world of uncertainty. They are the disciplined person's safety net, allowing you to stay productive even when your emotions or environment try to pull you off track. To make routines work, start small and build gradually. Don't try to overhaul your entire day overnight. Pick one area like your morning routine and refine it. Make it specific, tie it to your goals, then follow it consistently until it becomes automatic. The goal isn't perfection, it's repetition. The more consistent you are, the less you have to think. What begins as discipline eventually becomes habit, and once it's a habit, it takes far less effort to maintain. Another key is to make your rituals meaningful. Don't just go through the motions, understand why each action matters. When you know that writing your goals each morning keeps you focused, or that working out early boosts your confidence, you attach value to the routine. This makes it easier to stick with. Discipline grows stronger when the why behind the action is clear. Purpose adds fuel to repetition, and that combination drives long-term behavior change. Ultimately, routines and rituals are systems. They are the invisible framework behind a disciplined life. They eliminate randomness, reduce friction, and multiply efficiency. With strong systems in place, you don't need to feel motivated to take action. You simply follow the path you've already designed. And that's where the real power lies. Not in forcing yourself every day, but in creating a life where the right actions happen by default. Discipline begins in the mind. Before you can consistently take disciplined action, you must first develop a clear mental picture of what you're working toward. This is why visualizing your goals daily is such a critical technique. When you vividly imagine your desired future, it creates emotional energy, clarity, and motivation. You're no longer just grinding through tasks, you're acting with purpose. You see the reason behind the effort, and that vision becomes your internal drive. The human brain responds strongly to mental imagery. When you visualize a goal, especially with emotion and detail, your subconscious mind begins to work on it automatically. You activate a mechanism known as the reticular activating system, or RAS, the brain's internal filter. Suddenly you begin noticing opportunities, ideas, and solutions that align with your goal. It's not magic, it's focus. Visualization sharpens your awareness and helps discipline feel less like pressure and more like alignment with your future self. Make this practice part of your daily routine. Set aside a few minutes in the morning or before bed and mentally rehearse your ideal outcome. Picture the goal already achieved. See yourself in the moment, the environment, the emotions, the result. The more detail, the better. The goal is to make the image feel real. When your mind believes something is possible, your body starts moving in that direction. Visualization feeds belief, and belief fuels discipline. When you connect emotionally with your goals, you become more resilient. Discipline is tested in moments of doubt, fatigue, and frustration. But when you have a clear vision of what you're fighting for, you don't quit easily. You endure. You adapt. The image in your mind becomes a source of strength. Whether you feel like showing up or not, your future pulls you forward. That's the power of vision. It gives meaning to sacrifice. Some people struggle with discipline because they've lost sight of the reward. They're so caught up in routine, in problems, in distractions, that they forget why they started. Visualization brings you back to center. It reconnects you with your why. The more often you remind yourself of where you're going, the less likely you are to be thrown off course by short-term temptations. A clearly imagined goal always outcompetes a fleeting distraction. You can also use visualization to rehearse specific action. If you're preparing for a difficult conversation, a presentation, a workout, or a project, mentally walk through it first. See yourself handling it well. Stay calm, confident, and composed in your mind's eye. This form of mental rehearsal prepares your nervous system to perform at a higher level. It's the same technique elite athletes use to enhance performance, and disciplined people use it to stay sharp. To make visualization even more effective, pair it with written goals. Writing crystallizes your thinking. When you visualize and write daily, you create a feedback loop that reinforces your identity as someone who follows through. You begin each day with clarity and intention, and over time this clarity reduces the need for force or willpower, because your direction is clear and your commitment is internalized. You no longer hope you'll stay disciplined, you know you will. Ultimately, daily visualization is a discipline of its own. It requires consistency, but it pays off in focus, emotional control, and perseverance. You can't hit a target you can't see. The clearer the picture in your mind, the more aligned your actions become. When your goals are front and center every day, You don't drift. You stay engaged. You act on purpose, not on impulse. And that's the foundation of lasting self-discipline. Discipline thrives on feedback. Without tracking, you're just guessing. You might feel like you're making progress, but feelings aren't fact. That's why one of the most effective techniques to strengthen self-discipline is to track your progress regularly and hold yourself accountable. It's not enough to start with good intentions. You must monitor what you're doing and measure the result. What gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed improves. When you track your behavior, you raise your awareness. You begin to see patterns, both good and bad. Maybe you're productive in the morning but drift in the afternoon. Maybe you're consistent 4 days a week but fall off on the weekend. These insights are powerful. They give you the ability to adjust, to course correct, and to improve deliberately. Without tracking, there's no structure. With it, you become the CEO of your own performance. There are many simple tools to help you track: journals, habit trackers, spreadsheets, checklists, or even mobile apps. It doesn't have to be complicated. The key is consistency. At the end of each day, ask, did I do what I said I would do? What worked? What didn't? What will I improve tomorrow? This kind of daily review builds the muscle of reflection, which sharpens your discipline. You're not just going through the motions, you're actively learning from your own behavior. Self-accountability is the next layer. It's easy to make promises to others and break promises to yourself, but that kind of thinking weakens your character. To develop true self-discipline, you must treat your own commitments as sacred. If you say you'll do something, do it, track it, review it. And if you fall short, don't make excuses. Be honest, learn the lesson, adjust the plan. That level of integrity with yourself builds the foundation of real inner strength. Some people benefit from external accountability as well. A coach, a mentor, a peer group, or even a friend can help hold you to a higher standard. When you know someone else is watching your progress, you perform better. It adds a layer of pressure, but it's productive pressure. It pushes you to show up when you'd rather coast. The key is to choose accountability partners who challenge you, not just cheer. Accountability isn't about comfort, it's about growth. Tracking also creates motivation through progress. When you see the check marks add up, the numbers improve, the habits build, it reinforces your effort. You start to trust the process. You see the connection between your daily actions and your long-term goals. That connection fuels consistency. Discipline doesn't feel like struggle when you can see the results. It feels like momentum, like proof that what you're doing is working and that you're capable of more. There's also something powerful about keeping score. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and top performers all track metrics that matter. Why? Because scoreboards drive behavior. If you're serious about any goal, fitness, finances, productivity, or skill, you need numbers. Not to obsess, but to stay honest. If you're not tracking, you're relying on memory, and memory is biased. But numbers don't lie. They give you clarity, and clarity empowers discipline. Tracking and accountability are the glue that keeps your discipline from drifting. Without them, it's easy to slide into complacency. With them, every day becomes a test of consistency, a chance to either rise or retreat. When you track, you pay attention. When you pay attention, you improve. And when you improve steadily over time, discipline transforms from something you have to force into something you simply are. Discipline is not something you're born with, it's something you build. And like any skill, it strengthens through repetition, through practice, and through intentional effort. The techniques we've covered aren't just strategies, they're commitments. Commitments to yourself, to your growth, and to the future you've imagined. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to get it all right today. What you need is consistency. You need the courage to show up every day, even when it's inconvenient. You need to choose long-term reward over short-term comfort, because that's where discipline lives, in the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching. Let the vision of who you can become pull you forward. Let the structure of your routines guide your actions. Let your daily progress reinforce your belief. And most of all, take full ownership of your time, your habits, and your choices. That is the mindset of the disciplined. That is the path to real success. Start small if you must, but choose one technique and live it. then stack another and another. Over time, discipline becomes not just what you do, but who you are.